Let's talk about the moment before you pull away. You know the one. It happens in a split second. Someone says something genuinely kind to you. Maybe they notice a detail about your life you thought was invisible. Maybe they look at you with a softness that demands nothing in return. Maybe they just stay a little too long, text a little too consistently, or offer a version of help that requires you to actually let go. And instead of warmth, instead of relief, your body triggers a red alert. You feel a physical tightening in your chest, a sudden sharp need for air. Your brain starts scanning for the exit. You make a joke to deflect the intimacy. You check your phone.
Anyway,
You change the
look at this
subject.
update I just got.
You smile that practiced, polite smile that says, "I am fine," while every neuron in your nervous system is screaming at you to run. Later, when you are alone in the safety of your own silence, you rationalize it. You tell yourself they were coming on too strong. You tell yourself you're just busy, focused, independent. You tell yourself you just need space. But if you are honest, brutally, painfully honest, you know that isn't the whole truth. You aren't pulling away because you don't want connection. You are pulling away because the connection feels more dangerous than the loneliness. There is a profound, often misunderstood psychology behind the adult who walks through life guarding their heart like a fortress. If you are watching this, chances are you are the person who everyone thinks is strong. You are the one who has it all together. You are the rock. But deep down, you are living in a state of starvation, looking at a feast you are terrified to touch. Today, we are going to dismantle the architecture of your avoidance. We aren't just going to look at Thiviwat. We are going to look at Thiviwide. Your brain believes that love is a threat to your survival, and we are going to explore how you can finally put down the armor that has become so heavy. You've forgotten what your own skin feels like. Number part 1. The masquerade of independence. Let's start with the greatest lie you tell yourself, that your independence is a preference. For the avoidant adult, independence isn't just a lifestyle choice. It is a survival strategy. It is a religion. You have curated a life where you need absolutely no one. You pay your own bills. You solve your own crises. You manage your own emotions. You have become an expert at self-soothing. To the outside world, this looks impressive. You look capable. You look reliable. You are often the high achiever, the person who excels at work because work has rules and feelings do not. In the workplace, your detachment is an asset. In relationships, it is a weapon. You have convinced yourself that needing others is a weakness. You view dependency as a trap. When someone tries to help you, you don't see care. You see a debt being recorded. You see a future obligation. You see a loss of control. But here is the catch. Hyper-independence is often a trauma response. It is what happens when you learn, usually at a very young age, that no one is coming to save you. It is the scar tissue that forms when you reach out for comfort and find only air, or worse, judgment. So, you made a vow, perhaps subconsciously, I will never give anyone the power to devastate me again. And the only way to ensure you are never devastated is to ensure you are never fully reached. You build a life of half connections. You have friends, but they don't know your darkest fears. You have partners, but you keep a secret part of yourself, locked away in a vault they don't have the key to. You are present enough to not be alone, but distant enough to not be vulnerable. You live behind a glass wall. You can see everyone and they can see you, but they can't touch you, and safely behind that glass, you are slowly suffocating. Number part 2. The biological paradox. Why does kindness feel like an attack? This is where we have to look at your nervous system. For most people, intimacy triggers the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It calms the heart rate. It lowers cortisol. It feels like a warm blanket. But for you, intimacy has been cross-wired with danger. Somewhere in your history, closeness was unpredictable. Maybe you had a parent who was loving one minute and explosive the next. Maybe you had a caregiver who was physically present, but emotionally a ghost. Maybe you were engulfed, suffocated by a parent who needed you to regulate their emotions, leaving no room for yours. Your brain learned a terrifying equation: intimacy equals loss of self, or intimacy equals pain. So now, as an adult, when someone moves closer, your amygdala, the lizard brain responsible for fear, hijacks the system. It doesn't see a lover or a friend. It sees a predator. It sees a threat to your autonomy. This is why you pick fights when things are going too well. Have you noticed that you have a perfect weekend with someone, and on Tuesday, you are irritable? You find a flaw. You focus on the way they chew, or a comment they made 3 weeks ago. You start devaluing them in your mind. This isn't because you stopped liking them. It is because your nervous system hit its tolerance limit for closeness. You are over-peopled. You feel engulfed, so you create conflict to manufacture distance. You push them away to get a gasp of air. It's a regulation strategy. You are regulating your anxiety by destroying the connection. It works in the short term. You feel relief when they back off. But in the long term, it reinforces the belief that you are incapable of love. Part 3. The myth of the cold heart. There is a terrible misconception that avoidant people are cold, unfeeling, or robotic. People call you emotionally unavailable. They say you don't care. That is almost never true. In fact, the opposite is usually the reality. You don't avoid connection because you care too little. You avoid it because you care too much. You are often hypersensitive. You feel things with a devastating intensity. You tune into micro-expressions, shifts in tone, the unspoken energy in a room because you feel so deeply the potential for pain is unbearable. The possibility of rejection doesn't just feel like a bummer, it feels like a death sentence. The idea of letting someone in only to have them leave feels like an annihilation of yourself. So, you numb out. You turn the volume dial of your emotions down to 0, not because there is no music, but because the music is deafening. You become an expert at preemptive rejection. You leave before you can be left. You reject before you can be rejected. You decide unconsciously that if the relationship is going to end, and your brain tells you it always be ends, you want to be the one holding the match. You want to control the demolition. This control gives you a false sense of safety, but it also traps you in a self-fulfilling prophecy. You believe people will leave, so you act in ways that force them to leave, which proves to you that people always leave. Part 4. The architecture of the phantom. Let's talk about the ghosts you keep. One of the most common behaviors of the avoidant heart is the idealization of the past or the impossible future. You might find yourself obsessed with the one that got away. You romanticize a relationship from 5 years ago, remembering only the good parts, glossing over the dysfunction. Or you fantasize about a perfect partner who doesn't exist yet. Someone who will meet every single one of your needs without ever asking anything of you. Why do you do this? Because a ghost cannot hurt you. A memory cannot ask you to show up for dinner with its parents. A fantasy cannot demand vulnerability on a Tuesday night. Loving someone who isn't there is the ultimate safety mechanism. It allows you to feel the sensation of longing and love without the risk of real-time intimacy. It keeps your heart occupied, so you don't have to deal with the messy, imperfect, real human being standing right in front of you. You use these phantoms as a shield. You compare real people to the ghost, and the real people always lose. He is great, but he doesn't get me like Fusaiti. Did. She is kind. But there is no spark. The spark you are looking for is often just anxiety. You have confused anxiety with chemistry. Secure love feels calm. It feels boring to a nervous system addicted to chaos. If there is no chase, no uncertainty, no game, you think something is wrong. You think the passion is dead. But really, you are just finally safe, and you don't know how to exist in safety. Part 5. The loneliness of the chameleon. There is a tragic loneliness to your existence, because you are so good at pretending. You are a chameleon. You know exactly who you need to be accepted. You are charming. You are funny. You are a great listener. You can enter a room and become exactly what the room needs. But this performance comes at a cost, because you are always curating yourself. You never feel truly known. Even when people say they love you, a voice in your head whispers, they love the mask. If they saw the real me, the needy, scared, messy version, they would run. This is the core wound, the belief that your true self is unlovable. You believe you are too much, too intense, too complicated, too dark, or you believe you are not enough, boring, broken, empty. So you curate, you edit, you polish, you only show the highlight reel, And because you never show the messy parts, you never give anyone the chance to love you. Despite them, you never get the corrective emotional experience of showing someone your ugly side and having them stay. You are starving for being known, but you are feeding yourself empty calories of superficial validation. Number part 6. The turning point. When the armor becomes a cage, eventually, something shifts. It has to. There comes a moment, maybe in your 30s, maybe in your 40s, maybe right now, where the cost of your protection becomes higher than the risk of connection. You start to realize that the fortress you built to keep the bad guys out is also keeping the good guys out. You realize that while you are safe, you are also incredibly, deeply alone. The silence of your independence starts to ring in your ears. You look at your phone and realize you have 1,000 contacts, but no one you can call at 3 a.m. to say, "I am terrified." You start to feel the weight of the mask. You are exhausted. You are tired of being the strong one. You are tired of being the one who doesn't need anything. You are tired of the control. You begin to crave a witness. This is the moment of awakening. This is where the psychology of avoidance starts to crack. Not because you are weak, but because your soul is stronger than your fear. You realize that you were built for connection, and no amount of trauma can erase that biological imperative. Number part 7. Rewiring the system. How to stay so. How do you heal? How do you dismantle a survival strategy that has kept you alive for decades? It is not about a sudden, dramatic transformation. You are not going to wake up tomorrow and be an open book. That would be violent to your system. Healing is about micro-dosing vulnerability. It starts with noticing the flinch. The next time someone is kind to you and you feel that urge to pull away, just pause. Don't force yourself to lean in. Just stop yourself from leaning out. Take a breath. Notice the sensation in your chest. Name it. I am feeling afraid right now. It starts with changing the narrative. When you tell yourself, I just need space, ask yourself, do I need space or do I need to feel safe? It starts with communication. You don't have to change your feelings, you just have to narrate them. Instead of ghosting or shutting down, try saying this script. I am feeling a little overwhelmed right now, and my instinct is to pull away. I really like you, but I need a moment to regulate. I am not going anywhere. Do you see the power in that? You are owning the fear without letting the fear drive the car. You are reassuring the other person while honoring your own boundaries. Healing means learning to tolerate the boredom of safety. It means staying when you want to run. It means allowing someone to help you with a small task, carrying a box, fixing a setting on your phone, and resisting the urge to take over. It means accepting that you are not easy to love, because no one is easy to love. We are all complicated, we are all messy, but you are worthy of love. You do not have to earn it by being perfect, and you do not have to protect it by being distant. Number part 8. The courage to be seen. The journey from avoidance to security is the bravest thing you will ever do. It requires you to walk into a room without your armor. It requires you to hand someone a loaded gun, the power to hurt you, and trust that they won't pull the trigger. And even scarier, it requires you to accept that they might pull the trigger, and knowing that if they do, you will survive it. Because that is the ultimate truth you have forgotten. You are an adult now. You are not the helpless child who needed to hide to survive. You have resources. You have resilience. You can handle heartbreak. You can handle disappointment. What you cannot handle, what will actually break you, is reaching the end of your life having never truly let anyone in. Imagine a life where you don't have to translate yourself. Imagine a relationship where silence isn't a weapon, but a comfort. Imagine being held fully and completely and not feeling the urge to escape, but the urge to rest. That is available to you, but it requires you to take the risk. It requires you to stop running from the thing you want most. It requires you to look at the love standing in front of you, with all its terrifying unpredictability, and say, I am scared, but I am staying. Because in the end, we don't protect our hearts by hiding them, we protect our hearts by strengthening them. And the only way to strengthen a heart is to use it. So, take a breath, unclench your jaw. Let the text message sit there. Let the compliment land. Let the person see you. You are safe. You are here. You are ready.